and thank you for joining us today for Lessons Learned from Eide Resourcefulness Award. My name is Deb Nelson, and I serve as partner in charge of nonprofit at Eide. Like many of you, we have had to pivot and rethink how we do this event. So we are excited to bring all 4 of our participating states together for our first virtual learning event. Our plan for this afternoon will be to share a little bit about Eide and what the Resourcefulness Award is. We will highlight our 2020 winners and share some themes that stood out from the applications that we received. And then we'll have the opportunity of hearing from our keynote speaker, Jarrett Ransom. And we'll end our time together today in breakout rooms to share additional insights and have a chance to connect with our peers. If you have any questions or comments during the event, please feel free to use the chat function down towards the bottom of your screen, and we'll be monitoring that as we go. And for those of you who use social media platforms, please feel free to use hashtag resourcefulness today for sharing with your networks. And if you're not familiar with Eide, we are a top 25 CPA firm with more than 40 offices across the western part of the nation. We have been serving nonprofit organizations for more than 100 years and have grown our practice to more than 300 professionals. Nonprofit is not something that our firm does on the side. We are deeply committed to serving the industry and have been consistently within the top 5 industries that our firm serves. For our clients, this means that we have extensive experience and knowledge to provide forward-thinking advice regarding your financial, operational, and business issues. And several of our nonprofit team members are here with us today. So if you want to give a wave, I'm sure you'll be hearing from them later on in our breakout rooms. And 2020 marks our 8th annual Resourcefulness Awards. The awards were created to support the financial health of the nonprofit sector and to recognize creative revenue generation strategies. The award is open to 501c3 organizations in Arizona, Colorado, Minnesota, and North Dakota. In 2020, the award opened in July, and we were fortunate to receive 160 submissions this year. And we proudly share that we have awarded $475,000 since 2013 and have reviewed over 960 submissions. We've never viewed this award as prize money only, but instead we feel a responsibility to provide you with helpful information on what others are doing across the country. The more that we can learn from each other, the stronger and more sustainable the nonprofit sector will be. So even if your mission is different from those that we highlight today, we challenge you to stretch your thinking and identify ways to apply these lessons and concepts into your organization. The 2020 winners were announced in October. So now let's take a look at what those winning initiatives were.
The mission of Treasures for Teachers is to provide free and low-cost supplies to teachers from the community's reusable resources. We do that by collecting materials from all over the valley and get it into the hands of teachers. Teachers can spend up to $1,000 each year out of their own pockets on school supplies. So Treasures for Teachers helps to offset that amount so that they don't need to spend as much. So we have had to pivot during these challenging times, and how we did that was by creating hands-on learning tools for the students that were learning from home. So we would get those supplies into the hands of teachers, other nonprofit organizations, and any homeschool families, and they would come and get those supplies. So instead of the teachers coming directly here, we were taking the supplies to them. The goals that we are using to achieve through this program is providing scholarships to teachers so no teacher ever has to be turned away for that inability to pay. Sustainability has always been important to Treasures for Teachers from the first day that we started. We were getting a lot of donations that were more for thrift stores, and we had the opportunity to open a thrift store to bring more income into the organization. Sometimes things don't go as planned, and it may take a little bit longer to get it up and going. We wanted to bring awareness to our program and show people how creative we are and how we're able to reuse items that are given to us. Being good stewards of all things given to you. That might be money, volunteers, staff, or items. It is so rewarding to see a company such as Eide Bailly recognize the nonprofit industry. We plan to use the award money so that we can support the organization in order to serve teachers, especially in this difficult time.
The mission of PBS 12 is to bring together, to convene, and to share all of the independent perspectives and life experiences that comprise a very dynamic Colorado. 2020 and the pandemic brought a number of challenges to PBS 12 as a content producing entity, because from social distancing restrictions, we could not bring people into our studio. As we were developing these new ways of doing our content and doing our events, we carried with it the idea, how can we also apply this to other nonprofits that are likewise struggling through this pandemic? So when we look at building a stronger community together, we take a look at what other organizations are doing. How can we bring in a video application into that they could then use to share on their website in this era of social distancing? How can they leverage these assets that we can create for them so that they can broaden the scope of their work and broaden their reach? You don't panic. Trying to create the most sustainable revenue streams, if we can collectively take an all boats can rise and we can get there together approach, it really is we believe, a much better approach to looking at business. We're thrilled to be awarded this fund. It's going to go right back into doing this exact same project for the next nonprofits down the line.
"30 or so years ago, my wife Diane and I started the foundation. Our goal is to do nothing less than change the future, encouraging, motivating, and assisting young men and women of color in the pursuit of education beyond high school. We do that two ways. One, by providing financial assistance, and two, and we think most important, we require our grant recipients, we call them paid scholars, to work with young children, kindergarten through 8th grade, specifically in the area of education, as tutors, mentors, and role models. You know, this whole issue of diversity and having a diverse workforce, it's more than just a catchphrase. Our continuing education program, the elimination of bias, is successful because we actually give people the tools that they can use to go out and recruit, retain, and actually eliminate bias.
The goals for the Justice Allen Page Elimination of Bias CLE seminar is first to generate income for the Page Education Foundation so that we can continue our work serving students of color in the state of Minnesota as they pursue their dreams of post-secondary education. The second component is creating more representation of professionals and particularly attorneys of color in the field of the law.
Our first year we had 10 Page scholars. This year we have 567.
My team and I were thrilled to learn that we were the recipients of the Eide Bailly Resourcefulness Award.
We will use that money to provide, I think it's 6 or 7 scholarships. It'll go directly to the work that we do, the work that we're trying to accomplish.
Family Health Care is a wonderful clinic that helps serve the Fargo communities. We don't judge you because you do not have insurance or you might not be able to afford some of the services that other people might be able to afford. We treat everyone equally and with respect and dignity.
We do our best to provide the same quality of care that you would expect at any other healthcare institution. When we first started trying to implement COVID-safe rules, things were changing so rapidly it was difficult to keep up. Other health institutions have been doing this for a long time, but family healthcare was not. And so obviously that required a lot of technological quick changes and all kinds of flexibility, and also an adjustment in providing care because it's a different way. When a patient's at home, you can't just grab a quick blood check. You can't just go quick and make sure that this isn't something very serious that's very rare just by looking at it. You have to be really creative and flexible.
What's your blood pressure?
We needed telehealth. We needed cameras. We needed providers to be able to be set up at home. We couldn't have done that without hope.
Getting this grant through Eide Bailey, we were able to purchase telehealth equipment, our cameras on our monitors, our computer screens, and to update our computer equipment.
I love seeing patients from all over the world. Here at Family Healthcare, we get to see a wide array of patients and ethnicities and cultures, and that is really gratifying to me. Try to be flexible, to think outside the box, to keep working at it.
Change is not a bad thing. Change can be a great thing, and you can learn a lot from it. People really came around and showed that they're resilient.
Congratulations to our winners. I know we have representatives with us today, and we are so appreciative of your flexibility in working with us to film your story while taking safety precautions into play during the pandemic. Next, I'd like to thank our judges. These awards would not be possible without the help of our judges. They volunteered their time to read and score submissions based on the criteria of the award. That criteria included creativity, implementation, financial impact, sustainability, and overall impression. So we thank our judges again for the time and energy that they dedicated to this process. Here you will see our Arizona judges, Karen Werner, Israel Ortiz, and Jarrett Ransom, who we will be hearing from later today. Then we have our Colorado judges, Christine Benero, Marla Williams, and Sue Hawk. Our Minnesota judges were Eric Snyder, Julie Manwaran, and Susie Brown. And our North Dakota judges were Allison Peterson, Clarence Sitter, and Dorothy Lick. Next, I'd like to touch on a few application themes. So, like I said, we received over 160 submissions this year, and we go through those and identify trends to really share back with this community what we're seeing from a theme standpoint. And this year especially, we saw organizations dig deep and innovate. In past years, we've shared themes on collaboration and partnerships, providing skills training, social enterprise models, and who can forget social engagement? If you think of the Ice Bucket Challenge, that was back in 2014 already. So for 2020, the top 3 themes were around education, virtual fundraising, and maximizing your resources. Regarding education through technology, because of the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders, many organizations found themselves needing to rethink how they deliver their programs. We received numerous applications that highlighted how organizations took their programs online, almost overnight. There were virtual classes directed towards low-income students and families in partnership with schools, arts organizations that began selling art kits and supplies to accompany their virtual classes, guided virtual tours that provided an escape from our homes, live stream discussions with experts, and conservation activities that taught individuals skills for water harvesting, composting, and gardening. There was an overwhelming desire to learn while we were all at home, and many organizations figured out ways to generate revenue while doing this. The next theme that we had was virtual fundraising. And the spring is generally packed with galas and fundraisers that provide that much needed financial support. I personally saw organizations start out by delaying their events in hopes that people could gather in person by summer or fall. Others canceled them altogether, and then there were organizations that turned the challenge into a new creative opportunity to engage with their donors and supporters. Going virtual involves knowing what platforms to use, finding ways to make it an engaging experience, and ultimately providing that personalized experience that results in dollars raised. We received submissions about virtual 5K races where participants received race bags, 30-minute live streamed events that focused on highlighting services and programs, many of which also included some type of party box or gift. There were live stream music concerts, virtual tailgate parties, virtual scavenger hunts, and the list goes on and on. Organizations were able to generate revenue from selling tickets or simply asking for a donation. There were also organizations that went the route of doing a no gala gala. Sponsors were still invited to buy a table. Videos went out about how to not invite guests. Supporters were invited to post on sites what they were doing instead of attending another gala. It was purely an ask for financial support that played upon those who were tired of those traditional galas. And organizations weren't only rethinking how to attract donors to tune into these virtual events, but they also had to think about how to attract sponsors in a new way. The typical sponsor packages were revamped to offer more exposure and engagement in events. Overall, we saw that organizations were able to cast a wider net by going virtual. And then our last theme is maximizing your resources. Today, we received, well, not today, but over the course of the award, we received several submissions that focused on using resources to help other organizations. We saw in the video how PBS 12 used their technology and expertise to produce and host virtual events for other nonprofits. There was a community foundation that started a program to help nonprofits improve their business planning and development concepts, which also allowed access to a donor management platform. And many organizations rented their space. Examples of this included providing students and artists with metalsmithing experience to use an organization's space that also provided those necessary tools and equipment. And we also saw many providing access to large outdoor spaces that allowed local community groups to continue to meet in a safe place. There was no shortage of ideas in 2020. And as we move further into 2021 and continue to deal with many of these same challenges, it will be interesting to see how organizations again tweak their plans and their concepts to keep things fresh. Or on the contrary, how many continue to do what worked well in 2020. I'd now like to introduce our keynote for today, Jarrett Ransom. Jarrett is president and CEO of the Raven Group. She is a nationally recognized speaker and leader who brings an energetic and informal approach to her work. She is known as the nonprofit nerd and is an expert of all things impacting the nonprofit sector. In addition, Jarrett is co-host of the Nonprofit Show, which is a daily live web show featuring nonprofit thought leaders and topics from around the globe. The 30-minute show runs Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central, so make sure to check it out. Jarrett, it's all yours.
Thank you so very much, Deb. What a wonderful, gosh, all of these resources, all of the things that all of you have done, it's just been phenomenal. So the Nonprofit Show really did come out of this pandemic. No one knew where to go. Nonprofit leaders, we didn't know who to talk to. We didn't know what other organizations were doing. So I'm very fortunate to serve alongside Julia Patrick as the co-host of the Nonprofit Show. And today, thrilled to be here with all of you and share a little bit. I was, as you saw, the one of the judges for Arizona, so really excited for that. And bear with me as I get this slideshow here pulled up. So one of the things that I definitely want to share with all of you is, 2020 packed a lot of punches. It certainly did. And I believe our sector overall has been long overdue for a disruption. And I'm really sorry that it had to come in the way of what it did by way of a global pandemic, a social injustice pandemic, and political divide. So those have been three really hard challenges to bear. And I commend all of you for navigating these many uncertainties. Like I said, no one has a crystal ball. I'm going to talk a little bit about that again later. So 2020 was that challenge. But I really also want us to focus on the celebration. What is the celebration of this disruption? Of course, we've all heard that word pivot. It's become a drinking game for some people. We've all gone into Zoom, right? And just like with everything, if you don't have some level of technical difficulty, is it even considered a Zoom meeting? Right? And I think we can witness to that. So what I'd love to do, again, in my very non-traditional style, invite all of you to participate in the chat box. Share a little bit about the silver lining, as much or as little as you would like to, but I want you to utilize the chat box. I want you to share with us a celebration. Where has your organization shown its agility? Where has it shown its flexibility? And also innovativeness, right? Nimble. I have seen some of the most successful organizations really exceed because of their ability to be nimble, right? Like they had the ability to pivot, like that really fun meme that's been popular from the Friends episode, right? I think we can all relate to bringing in a really large piece of furniture. In this meme, it was a couch, right? And it was all about pivot and how do we get it up the stairs, and we have to turn the corner. So that was a lot of fun. And you know, I think Bernie now owns the meme world, Bernie Sanders. But when it comes to the pivot, that was such a big piece. So I would love to see some of the chat boxes. Like, what have you shared? What has been really good? Would love to hear from many of you. Just share about those silver linings. Where do you think your organization did well? Right? Where were you nimble? Did your board step up? How were you innovative? And just share some of that here, because I really want us to share this in community. It's a safe space. And I've been on many of these Zoom meetings, and I know that they can get quite long and boring without some interaction. So Rebecca shares a little bit about turning a drive-through facility on campus as a way to deliver services safely. Awesome. Technology, work from home with a few issues, and setting up happy hours, fun events. Cassidy, I think 2020 was the year of happy hour. I have never been to so many happy hours, sometimes multiple ones in one evening, right? Because you could go to one, jump off, and then you go to the next one. And without any driving, like you get to stay home and you get to have that connection. And that definitely was a plus. You're pleased. Mary shares that she's pleased there's no staff layoffs. That is a huge compliment. So no staff layoffs were needed 2020. Also, good collaboration carried us through. Absolutely. And those virtual events, right? And I'm going to tell you, the virtual reality, that virtual technology, I believe is here to stay, right? Like we've had it, we've all had a taste of this, and it's not going anywhere. So how can we continue to bring in possibly a hybrid? Now, I know we're in 2020, but for many of us, we feel like in this extension of we're in 2021, it feels like an extension of 2020, right? And I remember I think it was like April, someone joked and said, yeah, it's like March 47, because it still feels like we're in the middle of the pandemic in March. So I feel like we are still in 2020 because not much has changed. We're still dealing with a lot of the same pandemics that I spoke about before. But as we talk about the trends of 160 applications came in, that is phenomenal, 160 applications. And I will say that the resourcefulness is shining through in so many of the conversations that I'm hearing. Again, I served as a judge for the state of Arizona and definitely saw a lot of innovation and resourcefulness in those applications. So I can only imagine that many of you others really shared that within your applications. So thanks for those of you sharing your silver linings. Again, so sorry that the pandemic had to come and shake up what it did. I myself had that time of COVID positive where it meant I was kicked on my butt, couldn't do anything for about 2 weeks. Very fortunate that my symptoms remained mild, but it definitely took a toll. One of the trends I am seeing, and again, serving as the co-host of the nonprofit show, is an increase of altruistic actions. Generosity is through the roof. And I have seen this time and time again, right? And so people that have the capacity to give, they are still giving, right? They may not give at the same level, but they're still giving. The other great thing I've seen by way of altruistic and generosity has truly been some individuals that may not have been able to engage in a financial resource have stepped up and done so. So I want to share, and I do have some notes here because I'm a nerd, but I'm not a statistic nerd. So I have to refer to my statistic points on this. So many of you, I would love to know if you participated in Giving Tuesday. Just type a Y in the chat box, Y for yes, your organization participated in Giving Tuesday. So an astonishing $2.47 billion was donated in 2020 on Giving Tuesday. That was December the 1st, 2020. So for those of you that may or may not know, 30% of most operating revenue comes in the fourth quarter of every year. This is the giving season, and this is really when most individuals make their donations. Many happen, of course, throughout the year, maybe in monthly donations, maybe you have a sustaining donor, a platform or program like a monthly giving. But our fourth quarter is really important. And many of us, of course, were sitting on the edge of our seat, not knowing how the year was going to pan out. Again, none of us had the crystal ball. But if you did, I would love to go with you to buy a lottery ticket. So $2.47 billion were donated on December the 1st, 2020. And that is a 29% increase compared to the previous year, right? So compared to 2019, we actually increased our donations across the nation on one day of altruistic and generous giving. That is phenomenal. And I think we all deserve a round of applause for that, because that is a really big way of engaging your community, especially during a time when many of us felt guilty for asking. I talked to many of my clients and they were saying, Jarrett, do we really ask for a gift? Is now the time that we even ask for donations? Maybe we shouldn't participate in Giving Tuesday, but that really has proven to be such a phenomenal way. And then Charity Navigator actually shows the statistics of an increase in number of donations on Giving Tuesday. So not only is the dollar increased, the amount of people participating in Giving Tuesday also increased. So again, I have seen and witnessed a very generous, very altruistic giving in our nation. And that has been very warming, very heartwarming to see, because we've all been affected in some way, shape, or form by this pandemic. Also, the last statistic on Giving Tuesday I want to share is that the number of charities supported increased by 25%. So that means 25% more charities received some type of support during that 2020. So the challenge, this is that crystal ball, right? And if we could all reach out and grab that from this person's hand, wouldn't that be wonderful? And just hold it. That would be really cool to see, like, what does the future hold? So I'm going to share with you a little bit of my own nonprofit nerd predictions. And to do that, I'm going to nerd out. Oh, my glasses are a little dirty. I apparently haven't nerded out in a while. So, okay, we're going to nerd out. The challenge, right? Some of this challenge is the support. How are we supporting one another? How are we supporting our community? How are we encouraging one another and encouraging our community? So my predictions, if I could hold this crystal ball, my predictions for 2021 is that we are all extremely ready for this expansion. 2020 was a year of feeling isolated, feeling restricted, feeling like we couldn't go anywhere, because let's be honest, we couldn't, right? We were quarantined, we were isolated, we were restricted. Many offices are still closed, right? Travel's down, all of that. So the opposite of restriction, and I physically do that with my body, the opposite of restriction is expansion. Right? We're all ready to expand. We're ready to come out of our chrysalis. We're ready to spread our wings as a butterfly and truly expand. So think about that expansion, right? When you think of support, encouragement, I also want you to consider collaborations at a higher level, that is something that I definitely heard and saw in the Arizona proposals. But overall with these videos in the other regions in which Eide Bailly serves, is truly this ability to collaborate, this ability to innovate, this ability to support our community in ways that we've never been able to support before. Now, again, I feel that our sector was due for a disruption. So sorry it came in the way that it did. But I really do believe that oftentimes nonprofits do the same old because it works, right? It's worked, it's continued to work. And so let's just, not open the hood and see what's in there. But when we dig deep and we focus on these themes that Deb previously shared, education, virtual fundraising, and maximizing resources, right? These are wonderful tools that can support our challenge, support and encourage everyone in our community to think a little bit differently, dig deeper, get a little bit more resourceful. And the challenge too, that I know we're all facing, and probably right now in this moment, is Zoom fatigue. I'm guilty of that, right? Like, do I really need another Zoom or video chat? Google Meetings, don't want to leave you out, don't be offended, but really Zoom has owned the platform for this. Compassion fatigue, that is another challenge of ours, right? Compassion fatigue, and just sheer exhaustion, right? Sheer exhaustion of the juggling of what 2020 has provided. So it has come at us in all of these different ways, all of these different trajectories, right? And it's almost like you're constantly playing a real life game of dodgeball. So you're holding the ball and you're just bouncing like this ball and that ball, if any of you can go back to your PE days of like, I don't know, 6th grade. So many of us are exhausted. And again, we're ready to expand. We're ready to collaborate. We're ready to think of things in a little different way. So with that, how can we do this if we don't take care of ourselves, right? Now, I'm really big on self-care, really big on wellness, really big on how can we take care of ourselves, our community, both inside and out, right? So how are you? What are you doing to take care of you? And what are you doing to take care of your family? So again, use the chat box. For some of you that are feeling brave, courageous, channel Brene Brown, right? Use that chat box and type some things that let's share with others. What have you done to take care of yourself? And what are you doing to take care of your family? So these could be physical things, right? Do you get out and move? Are you walking? Are you playing? Playing could be at any age, right? And so it doesn't mean that we have to play Twister. That might be really hard, but we could still have some kind of playful act. And that will really help us with our wellness. Getting outdoors, there is actually really great statistics, scientific statistics about how getting out in nature physically, mentally helps your well-being. So again, that mental, are you approaching burnout? Are you approaching that compassion fatigue? Maybe you're already there, right? And then I ask again in this mental space, are you playing? Where are you playing? So have fun. Emotional, do you support? And do you receive reports? So in that reciprocity space, right? Many of you might be team leads. And so you have a department that reports to you, or you have a board that reports to you, and vice versa, right? Maybe you have committee members. So where are you receiving support in your emotional well-being, as well as where are you providing? And I think that's really important. So wellness on the inside and out is extremely important as we continue to navigate these uncertain times. Again, we are in 2021, but it really feels like the extension of a 2020. So I want to talk now a little bit about that nature, the PTO, the burnout, the overwhelm, or maybe you just show up at work, which could be in your pajamas and your fuzzy socks, right? At your home office, but you might be somewhere else in your head, right? I'm guilty as well. I'm going to call myself, throw myself under the bus, because that has happened to me where I'm here, but I'm not really here. I'm not really present. I'm not really connected, because you know what? My son is in the living room and he's on virtual school. I think many of us can relate to that. Amazon is ringing the doorbell as I'm on a podcast or something being recorded, right? Like something happens out of our control. Maybe the dog starts barking, or maybe the dog gets out of the backyard. Like these are real life issues that I want to say, I don't think prior to 2020, we as a society were willing to discuss. We were not willing to incorporate this into our everyday conversations. And I have seen that in 2020. So some of my forecast of 21 honestly incorporates that, right? We will continue to talk to one another in this wellness and well-being overarching conversation. Many organizations meet a little bit early, like we did. The Eide Bailey team and I came on a little bit early before all of you joined us. First of all, we had a little bit of a tech run through, but we really did connect. How are you? How can I support you? What's going on, right? Let me make sure you have the same backdrop that I have, because we really want to show up in this consistent manner. So I also like to share some of the statistics when it comes to PTO, right? Taking time away from your everyday job, career, focus, responsibility is also really important. Now, we've all heard, I think, the term of, when you fly, which probably we don't even remember what that's like, but you need to put on your oxygen mask before you put on someone else's, right? So you need to take time for yourself to focus and prioritize your own personal life, have boundaries, get out into nature. And when it comes to nature, statistic here, 120 minutes a week in nature. So literally a walk, right? Or if you have a trail nearby, or if you have a lake or a pond, or maybe like, a community sidewalk that goes through a really nice area, it increases good health. It also increases well-being. So overall, it's a mood improvement, right? It is also scientifically shown to decrease depression, stress, and anxiety. Again, I need that. I don't know who of us on this call does not need a little bit lower stress and anxiety. And it increases that calm and that balance. So with that, I just want to say, everyone's doing a phenomenal job. Maya Angelou has beautiful, beautiful quotes, right? And one of them I will paraphrase. You do the best you can until you know better. And then you do that, right? And then you do better. So give yourself grace, give your team grace, really hone in on that reciprocity. How are you showing up for yourself, for your family, for your colleagues, really sticking in that wellness so that you do take care of yourself, so you can continue to support your community, right? Nonprofits exist because there is a community need. So we exist because the community needs us, right? So if we do not take care of ourselves and our own colleagues, we cannot take care of our community. And I do believe that we're all here to be of service. So be of service to yourself so you can continue to be of service to those less, fortunate, more vulnerable, disadvantaged, because they need us. They desperately need us. Open invitation for any and all of you that wish to join us on the Nonprofit Show. Thank you so much, Deb. It is a Monday through Friday show. So yes, every single weekday I am on live. You get the bloopers and all, just like today's episode. Our webinar is live. So if I stumble over a word, I stumble over a word. That is just real life. So do join us, 9:30 Pacific. We, of course, are in Arizona. Or I should say not of course, but I'm in Arizona. So this whole time change is crazy to me. So please do your own due diligence to figure out which time zone works for you. And then you can find us on the American Nonprofit Academy. And then we've got to drop down the Nonprofit Show. Now, I would love to nerd out with each and every one of you. this is where you can connect with me: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, I love to nerd out. I always have time for a phone call. So please do reach out to me. I am in Arizona. I work national, and would love to talk and share best practices with any of you for your organizations. Love to be there as a sounding board. Love to help you. Where might we be a little bit more innovative? Where can we add some structure so that we are in the long haul for sustainability? What's working? What can we improve on? I believe in abundance. I believe in collaboration. I believe in, doing this for the good of others and to continuing to be of service. So if I can be of service to you and I can help you be of service to the greater good of your community, please do not hesitate out to me. I did share, and I don't know where I am on my timing on this, Amanda and Deb, but I did share that I would be open. So if there's time for questions or anyone has anything that you want to type in the chat box, please take time to do that.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple of minutes if there's some questions that people would like to throw out there.
Ooh, Brenda, thank you. Brenda likes walking during business calls. Amazing. You know what? I have been booking my, hey, if you're totally fine with me walking my dog when we talk, then let's do it, right? Let's build a way to incorporate some wellness. And I kid you not, most people love that, right? And they say, can I bring my dog too? And it's like, yes, absolutely. I think we've gotten a lot more grace and a lot more understanding with other people. Cats run across our keyboard, dog tails, kids are tapping. I know my 10-year-old has come in, Mom, I'm hungry. And I'm like, 1 second, please, right? So however you can incorporate your everyday life into serving your community, I think is great. You're very welcome, Kim, for the insight. So anything else before I let you all go into your breakout sessions?
Well, thank you so much, Jarrett. I know these are great reminders that we often don't take enough time to just sit back and remember we need to do those things, especially as we're entering into a new year. We need to be refreshed and ready to hit those challenges.
Yes, hang in there. And what we say in the nonprofit show, stay well so you can do well.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Jarrett. So at this point, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, you're going to have access to that full video to watch our winners. We'll be sending a follow-up with some additional information. And it was just great seeing everyone's faces today.